Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I'm David H. Lawrence, 17th. We're going to be talking to Jodie Bentley in just a moment. But before we get there, I'd love to know where you're learning from, where you're going to be watching from. Those of you that are joining us, type in the comments whether you're on Facebook or you're on LinkedIn or you're on the YouTube, as my UK people refer to it. And let me know where you're at, where you're sitting watching this, and be ready to participate. We want to get questions for Jodie because we only have her for about an hour, and a bunch of you have sent questions in to ask her about the business that she knows so well. I'm really excited about. Let's meet Jodie Bentley. What do you say? Let's add her to the stage. Hello, Jodie Bentley. How are you?
Hello, David H. Lawrence, the 17th. I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic. So already I've had some people asking me, okay, so we've got Nick, who's listening in Los Angeles. We've got Jacko Pai Pai. Okay, in Vegas. That's such a Vegas name.
It's a good
Jacko
name.
Pai Pai. That's the new live Cirque show at one of the hotels. Thank
I
you,
love
Jacko,
it.
for joining us. If you please let us know where you're coming in. So people have already been sending me private messages about my background because apparently, after using a brick background for like 8 years, which is still back there, I chose this, and I'll tell you why. Partly it's because of you, Jodie.
Me?
Partly it's partly it's because of you. And the deal is that I have been a follower and a member of your community for a long time, and we're here today to invite you to join Jodie's community. Go to voheroes.com/thinktank, and I've got a very special bonus that I haven't even told Jodie about that I'm
Oh,
going to share with you should you decide to join
I
her
love it.
community. But here's the deal. Jodie is all about raising the bar, all about raising the level of expertise, the level of success, the level of opportunity, the level of perfection, not in service of perfection, but in service of your own goals. And so every little honing and shaving and refining thing. So in the last 3 weeks, I've auditioned for a few things.
Okay.
And 3 times, not once, not twice, but 3 times, a casting person has either asked me or Carl, my agent, uh, is that real brick behind David? Like, that's cool. Is that real brick? I don't want them asking that question. I don't want them paying any attention to anything other than my acting
Yeah.
when I'm auditioning. And this is based on something that I kind of had in the back of my head, but you kind of made clear in one of the things. I don't even know where I heard you say it, but it was all about just taking small steps in getting your
Mm,
stuff to a better place
yeah.
and not being overwhelmed by doing everything all at once, right? So this is my way of, like, nobody is going to say, is that real black paint behind David?
No,
Like, nobody's going to say that, right?
no,
So
no.
that's my first question. And we have a bunch of questions that people have sent in. If you have questions for Jodie, please ask them in the comments below,
Yeah.
aside from just telling us where you're at. But ask questions. If you have questions about the business, that's why she's here. So
Yeah.
that's my first question for you before we get to the questions that people have asked is, how do you like combat the overwhelm of having to know everything everywhere all at once?
Yes, great movie, awful concept in life, right? To focus on. Um, it's figuring out for me, it's figuring out like what's in the gap. And I like even just the top of this year, I ended up getting the iPhone Pro 16, and therefore my old mic that I was using on my phone didn't work anymore because it was a different thing. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll be okay. I can figure something out. And then finally I was like, okay, Jodie, just upgrade and get the new mic. That was most important. I need my new mic for my self tapes, right? I got the new phone, didn't think that through. That's most important. So a lot of times I got to take a step back and just figure out like what's in the gap and what's most important. So what was most important last month was getting the new mic. What's most important this month? For me, it's actually getting some songs done. So just taking some time to work on some music because I'm opening up my musical theater career again. But I think it's really important just to like take a 10,000-foot view and go, what's missing, what's in the gap, but what's going to move the needle right now? What's going to help me prioritize, get more focused, move me from point A to point B right now, because we can't focus on everything everywhere all at once. We can't invest millions of dollars in our business in January of the new year, right? So it's really understanding what do you need, what's in the gap of getting you to where your goals are, but then how do you break it down and really prioritize it about what's most important now.
Yeah. And that's a challenge for some people, knowing what to prioritize, knowing which things are going to be the most beneficial and which things kind of keep us from doing the hard work by giving us busy work.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
you know what I'm
Yeah, yeah,
saying?
yeah. Yeah, I just had this whole conversation with a new client of mine, and she was like, you mentioned that actors get caught up in busy work. Like, what do you mean? And I was like, okay, so when I was an actor in New York in my 20s, I was working all the time doing theater. I kept auditioning and doing theater and doing all this stuff. However, it was never paid. I was driving myself batty. No casting directors came to the Black Box Theater down on St. Mark's Place, even though I loved it. Do you know
What?
what I mean? And I was like,
Yeah.
I kept being busy, but it wasn't smart career strategy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people go, well, I just submitted on Actors Access and I did these things and I applied for all these student films. Okay. But is that going to help you really get where you want to go? Or are you ignoring reaching out to casting directors, really putting together an agent campaign, really defining who you are so the industry can get you like that? But you feel like, oh, I submitted on Actors Access today, so I'm an actor. Or I went to acting class, so I'm an actor. And I'm not trying to like poo poo acting class. I think, we all got to train, you got to get your craft up there. But I think a lot of times actors hide in acting class because they feel like, oh, I'm doing something for my career. But when you're in class over and over and over again, it just becomes a safety. And so a lot of people get stuck there and then don't take the risks to really build the relationships or put themselves out.
I also think that sometimes people do things because the level of risk is pretty
Oh,
low.
yeah, for
Like,
sure.
you can go to acting class, and if you come away with a great response from the teacher or not so great response from the coach, doesn't really matter because there was no barrier to entry or intended outcome that was
Yeah.
going to change your career in some way. So I think it's really important to note that Jodie's program, which is called the Actors Think Tank, and it's what I want you to consider joining if you really want to raise the bar on your career. You can actually get started for as little as $47. Her membership is really powerful, really potent. Jodie has been a client of mine, and I have been a client of hers. She has a few audiobooks under her belt, maybe. I don't know.
Yes, I just booked another one, David.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I am a little perturbed that you didn't call me when you were deciding on what mic you wanted there, but I'm okay.
Oh,
So,
this is just my podcast mic. I
uh,
still use the mic in the
no,
booth that you
no, no,
gave
I'm
me.
saying,
Oh, what?
anyway, so I want you to, but Jodie leads you. Jodie mentors you. Jodie supports you. Jodie cares about, let's talk about Jodie as though she isn't on the screen right now. No, she's just really good at listening carefully to what it is that you're missing
Mm-hmm.
and trying her best to sort of send you in that direction, very much like me in terms of being a consultant rather than a coach.
Mm.
I just, that's how I look at you. But anyway, I want to get to some questions. If you
Yeah.
have questions, put them in the comments below. The link, voheroes.com/think tank, will take you to Jodie's space. She has an early bird pricing that ends as we're doing this video tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Pacific. So
Yes.
if you're going to decide to do it now. Don't wait. And here's the reveal. If you do, Jodie will immediately get in touch with me and say, hey, so and so just joined my membership. They get a 30-minute private with you. Yeah? Yeah, they do. So anybody who
Whoa.
joins Jodie's membership from this video by going to voheroes.com/thinktank, and we'll know who you are, you get a 30-minute private with me, and I'm happy to sort of
Wow.
give you the side view of how to get the most out of Jodie's stuff, or anything else you want to talk about. Voiceover, absolutely. Jodie's journey, she'll tell you about her journey here today. But let's take a look at some of the questions that people have, and I'm going to take a couple of the ones that were sent in ahead of time first.
Okay.
So just bear with me. Raj says, I don't have an agent and don't live in Atlanta.
Okay.
So I'm not likely to get one anytime soon. Can I still find work? This is a big question for people. What kind of representation do they need, if anything at all, and how to work without it?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I don't know what market that you are in, Raj, but I'll say this. I have right now in like people who've gone through my membership. I've had 2,300 clients in 17 different countries go through my membership. I have clients who live in small towns in Kansas. I have clients who are in the Czech Republic. My client in the Czech Republic just landed a US agent, and she still works locally. I have a client who lives in Norway who also has an agent in the US and books all the time in Norway and produces her own work and wins festivals and all this stuff. So it doesn't matter where you live. I think now, especially look, after the pandemic, during the pandemic, everything went to self tapes, right? Film and television, the pre-way in, the first audition is always going to be a self-tape. I don't see it going back. I think theater has started shifting back into in-person auditions. Okay. I don't see that happening for film and television. It's been happening commercially, but even a lot of the commercials I get, this first audition is still a self-tape. So when people start to say, oh, I'm in the smaller market, this or that, I think that just starts to be a limiting belief and an excuse. And I think there's a lot that you can do to still build those connections, build those relationships, and get seen for certain auditions. I have clients in small towns in Texas who have agents in Atlanta and agents in Texas. Texas is a huge market. There's a huge studio being built there now. So I think, Raj, I'm not sure where you are, but I know that there's work to be found. And if you don't have an agent right now to be submitting you, go to the film commissions and locally of where you are. What projects are coming into town? Who is casting them? How can you reach out to them? What casting directors are in your area? Maybe there's 2, maybe there's 3, maybe there's 20. I'm not sure, but reach out, take classes, follow them on Instagram. Have they spoken somewhere on a panel that you can watch and then DM them about what you saw them speak about? I mean, you got to start really thinking outside the box of how can you build the relationships that you want to build. And you can do that without agents. I have clients booking all the time without agents. Then you start booking and then you have work to then go to an agent and go, look what I did. And that makes you way more viable and a more viable commodity for them to take on. So, Raj, I'd focus on building relationships, seeing what is shooting in your area, and start there to then build a body of work to reach out to agents.
Yeah, and for those of you who are frantically and furiously writing as quickly as you can because Jodie is speaking as quickly as she is, just know
Just what
that
I do.
this is being recorded and will be available on whatever channel you're watching on, or if you'd prefer, you can watch on one of the other channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're doing what used to be called a simulcast, so you can watch it wherever you want.
I love it.
Nick Omana, who
Yes.
famous, very, very well-respected voice teacher and voiceover coach. Why don't we have the business side of the business taught from the very beginning?
Oh, I love that, Nick. First of all, Nick, I love that photo. Fabulous. Secondly, Nick, it's funny that you should ask this question. I am currently teaching at the University of Austin. I built their business of acting program, and I'm currently teaching their graduating class. They come out to LA. It's called UTLA. And this is the 5th business of acting class that I've built at the university and college level. And I've been asking myself this very same question. I actually have a survey that I've been putting out to actors currently about what their student experience was like with the business side of acting, because I do think universities and colleges and conservatories and training programs need to do better. They need to do better. And there's a huge gap. And even the data that's already come back from my survey is people feel not prepared at all, or they got a little tiny bit of education. And that's not good enough, especially in this market that we're in now, with all the trends that have shifted in our industry, right? It is a more competitive industry now. There are less projects being made. So is it a little bit harder to get in? Maybe. Is it a little more competitive? Maybe. So we all need to step up our game to be able to compete. And I do think that colleges and universities are doing a disservice by not training their kids also on the business side of thing and prepping them for an actor lifestyle in this industry. So why don't they do that? They've had their training programs for a long time. Acting school is meant to expand you and expand your artistry. And, in the 80s, 90s, and early aughts, they didn't really think about that. But most of them still aren't thinking about that. And I think that's the problem.
Yep.
UTLA!
Yeah. So it's funny because I remember being shocked that I was being asked to speak at UC Boulder or CU Boulder. And I said, why do you want me to come? Well, we want to know about what it's like to actually exist in the ecosystem of the Hollywood business. I'm like, so you don't want to know about prior moments or sense memory or, acting skill? No, we want, no. Chip Persons is like, no, we want to know about the business.
Good.
How do you find auditions? How do you get reps? How do you, the stuff that you would think they would make. But here's the thing. Jodie and I both got some of this grounding and some of this training with the Actors Network. And I've watched Jodie blow it up. And that's why this is so valuable. I personally think Jodie is undercharging for what she's doing.
I know you do.
That's me.
I know.
Just me.
I know.
But I think that it's important that we realize just how crucial knowing how the business works, knowing what to do with your own workflow. We all know actors who are fantastic that never get booked.
Yep.
We all know actors that, they're okay. And they're booking all the time. What's the difference? I'm asking you this question.
I know. First of all, Nick, thank you for saying that. It comes down to business skills. It really does. We'd have to look side by side at two careers and really make an analysis. But if I had to guess, I would say the actor who is booking a lot has really worked on building relationships, has really worked on their materials, really has pitching materials that their agent and manager can use to really get them in the door. They have an idea of who they are. They know who they are. So they know they have sales tools to help sell them in that and get known as that. And they're probably really, really good at following up with all their industry contacts, right? That they're really treating it like a business. And I have so many clients who are like, but Jodie, I just want to act. I'm like, yeah, so do I. So do I. So do we all. And there's all these other things that you must do now, that you get to do now to be able to act. It's just the way the industry works. And if you just want to act, then maybe just go do community theater, right? You got to really understand what do you want? What's your goal? What's your definition of success? What's going to motivate you? What inspires you? And it's okay. I've had clients actually leave the biz and go, no, I really do just want to do community theater because I just want to get on stage. Great. You got to know that about yourself. You got to understand that about yourself. But if you have a bigger vision for your career, then you got to put in the foundational work to move the needle to get you there.
Yeah. I think sometimes we make the sort of assumption that this is new, that all of a sudden, in the 21st century, we have to be entrepreneurs. Right, I would like to disabuse you of that notion. We're the second oldest profession and we've always been entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Moving around the countryside with our little troupe of actors going, might we put a show on your Athenaeum stage? Listen, if you don't believe that, I want you to go back and either read or listen to the biography of Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr, one of my heroes, because not only was she an excellent actor, and not only was she a crazy, awesome tech person, having invented, a version of radar that eventually ended up being the Wi-Fi that we all use and the cell system that we all use. She's amazing. But she also was a terrific entrepreneur. She got herself out of Nazi, crib Germany to get to the United States, and defended herself against the guys that ran the industry here in Los Angeles and killed it. Like, she was great. She embodied what you're talking about.
Mm,
We sometimes think, oh, it's a modern thing that we
right.
have to do our entrepreneurial work.
Mm-hmm.
So please ask questions in the chat below, whatever you are watching. And let me make sure that I can answer this question for Jeffrey. Yeah, it is. It is. It's actually Benjamin Moore Old Navy. It's a bluish gray black.
Oh, very
Now
nice.
that you have it, but jot your questions about the acting business um,
Well,
in
just
the
to
comments.
piggyback off what you said, David, just talking about Hedy Lamarr and that we've been entrepreneurs, right? What I find, this happens a lot with some clients of mine or actors that I know, and they go, "Yeah, I didn't really, love all the business side of the biz." So they go and get their real estate license or their massage therapy license, or they become a life coach, and then they come back to me and they go, "Oh shit, Jodie, and now I got to market myself." And I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly what you needed to do as an actor. You had to market yourself and build your business and get pitch tools and get clients. You're doing the same thing. You've just positioned yourself in a new industry doing the same thing, because marketing is the one constant that every profession gets to do. So as opposed to resisting it and running away from it, let's find a way in. Let's embrace it."
Yeah,
Right. And that's really what I do well in the Actors Think Tank, because I think marketing, just even using marketing for actors, is such a huge concept
yeah,
and completely overwhelming. And I really help you break it down and break it down for every tool and break it down for your brand of how to build all of that and what that really means.
yeah.
Especially because marketing and sales are two very different things. And I don't think many people understand that concept.
Yeah, but you will if you join Joey's community. So VOHeroes.com/think tank. And just so you know, in the description of this, either on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, there are links above and below the description of this event that you can click on that will take you right to Jodie's
Awesome.
page to talk about it. So Dana sent in ahead of time, do you need a professional setup to submit auditions? And I think she was talking both about on camera and on voiceover.
Mm.
And I would like to know what you consider to be the least of what would be a professional setup.
That's interesting. Okay. I just saw something. Who was it? Oh, I was talking to a casting director, Christy Faison, and she showed me these two callback tapes from these two women, and they showed me the one that booked it, and they were not standard self-tape setups at
Right.
all. But their auditions were killer. They were killer. But now look, I always want to set myself up for success, right? I want to have systems. I want to have structures. I want to know that I'm always bringing my A game. And then if I'm on vacation and I have to shoot an audition in the bathroom of the hotel, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And then you do what you got to do.
We
But
all
for
have
me,
stories of that,
right,
where we either got a
exactly.
callback or we got a booking or we moved somewhere down the line further than we thought we would with a crappy had to do it
Oh God.
with holding my phone or whatever. Even, I mean, there are examples of this all over the place.
Yeah.
Hugh Laurie, his audition for
Oh
House,
yeah.
he's like all curled up and he's like holding his phone like this. He was in like Bulgaria or something. And it's like, it's horrid to look at, but it's lovely to look at the same time. So go ahead.
Right. Right. So there are those, outlier examples, right? But I never want to think about my career as like, oh, I'm going to be the exception to the rule. I'm going to be the outlier. But if it happens that I'm on vacation or something, you're going to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So I do believe that you need a professional setup. I do want at least a solid background. That for me, for on camera, if we're talking about that, I use a roller shade that I just go up and down with my roller shade. I love it because it goes away and it's easy to set up. I have my lights, I use a 3 light setup. If you don't have that, just get one ring light in front of you. That's fine. I have a great mic. I use my phone, my iPhone Pro 16, and I have a mic specifically for that. So, I mean, you got to be seen and you got to be heard. That's the biggest thing, right? You don't, like, I would never shoot a self tape here, right? In my office setting. That's too distracting.
Would you?
So,
Maybe if you had to, if it served the character?
I have used this chair in an audition against my wall before when I was like power CEO woman. I've definitely used this chair.
Yeah.
So I
Or if
will
you're
pick
auditioning for a
something.
part on a Zoom call,
Right,
it
that could work.
depends. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I had an audition once where a whole part of the scene was, and it was a Nickelodeon new pilot. And the whole part of the scene was her walking in and out a door, and it had all this comedy and timing. And I was like, I can't just stand here in front of this self-tape setup and do that. So actually my booth, which is right there, I
Hmm.
used my booth and was going in and out of my booth and did that. And it worked really well. So anyway, there's exceptions to things. But Dana, I always want to have a baseline setup that I'm using. So for me, again, just a solid background. I use my phone. I don't have a big camera that I use for anything. I use my phone and I have a great mic in the lighting. So for me, I think you just want to have something that's plug and play that you can fall back on, that's easy to set up.
Yeah.
So that way, when you get an audition, you're like, yay, I know what to do. As opposed to, I've had some clients go, every time I get a self tape, I go, oh, because I got to set up all my shit. And like, that's not a great place to start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a great place to
Absolutely.
start.
I think
And
that
in terms of VO setup, I do whatever David told me to do, and I still use all that stuff. So
okay. Well, speaking of that, Dana also, she was greedy. She says also, what's the best way to get repped? And this is a big question.
it's a big
So if you could
question.
hone in on one thing that people assume that likely isn't true about the pursuit of getting representation, an agent or a manager.
um,
While
I
Jody's
think
thinking, that was her voiceover booth that she was pointing at, by the way. Not, I don't know what
yes.
booth you might have thought, like a tanning
Oh.
booth. It wasn't that.
Yeah, it looks like I tan.
Exactly. So one thing that people assume that maybe they shouldn't.
Well, I do want to. I have a very short answer to this question for
Great.
Dana as
Great.
well. But I think the one thing people assume is they go, "Great, I'm an actor. I need headshots and I need an agent." And then they go out and they get headshots and then they start reaching out to agents. And I think that is the biggest waste of time when you first start acting. So Dana, the best way to get repped, first of all, be solid in your craft and that you know what you're doing, right? In terms of auditioning and all of that, right? I don't teach that side of it. I teach the business side of it. So you got to have your craft settled. But then, which is where I come in, you got to know who you are. You got to know your brand. You got to go your niche. You got to know what you sell. You got to know the stories that you tell best. You got to know who you are. You got to know how you want to show up in this industry. Once you know that, then you can build your headshots. Then we can build your marketing tools. Then we can build your pitch materials. Then you can reach out to agents and managers. I would say 99% of my clients who do the foundational work of branding, who really understand who they are and they know how to manifest that among all of their marketing tools, and then we do an agent campaign, it's those 99% of those people always, always, always get an agent or a manager because they've done the foundational work.
Yeah.
They've gotten rid of, no, they don't have enough this. No, they don't have enough that. They've gotten rid of the no's to get the yes. So it's not about just like, I need that out the gate. No, you don't need that out the gate. You need to figure out who you are. You need to figure out the stories you want to tell. You need to build your craft up and you got to start doing the business foundational work. Then that makes you a much more viable commodity to the agent. I think you got to remember that an agent is a salesperson and you got to give them sales tools. And if you have no sales tools, do not start reaching out to the agent yet.
Great.
Right. And I just want to say this, even in my own career, was the last year, I was like, okay, number one, my last name is Bentley. Number two, I know how to do a British accent. Number three, I never get auditions for that. Why? Oh, Jodie, you have no footage that shows you doing a British accent. Duh. So I did a self-tape with a British accent and I got 3 auditions from that self-tape clip that my manager submitted. Because I just didn't have the right tool to get seen for that. So it's about but you got to understand who you are first, what you want, where you're going, and then we can build all those sales tools to get seen for where you want to go.
As if we rehearsed this, there's a question coming up after we take a question from the comments on branding. So
okay, great.
Hang on for that. So my obligatory channel, which is a very odd name for a Canadian, says,
I love it.
I'm in Canada, Vancouver. It's actually Vancouver, Canada, but far be from me to correct a Canadian. And I have an agent here. Would having agents elsewhere give me an advantage, or does it become too many chefs in the kitchen? First, before Jodie answers this, be careful. to read your contract, because you may have an exclusive contract with an agent before you go searching for another agent elsewhere. Not in voiceover, that doesn't apply in voiceover, but it might apply when it comes to TV theatrical. So go ahead, Jodie, what do you think?
Yep. No, that's a great point, David. So again, I think this comes back to what do you want? What are your goals? What do you want to be booking? And where is that stuff being shot? Right. Like I have a client, Rupinder. He has a Canadian agent. He has had a career in Bollywood, right, in India. He also has now an agent in the UK, and he has an agent in the US. So he has a foothold in 4 markets, and that makes sense for who he is in his career and all the films that he is doing, right? And his agent in Canada is not exclusive in that way. The Canadian agent talks to the UK agent, like they're all in communication. So I think it just depends. For a long time in my own career, I was like, Atlanta, nah, I don't really want to leave LA. And now I'm like, a good friend of mine just got a house down there. Her and her husband moved there from LA. I'm like, well, could be a local hire. I can stay at their house. And there's lots more stuff being shot there. I'm like, I'm going to start looking for then agents. Why not? Why not? My manager's on board with it. We had the conversation. There's shows that are shooting there would be right for me. So I think you just got to, I would just take a step back, obligatory channel, and say, well, what are your goals? What do you want? Does it make sense to find someone in New York? Does it, because a lot of the procedurals are there? Do you really want to be doing sitcoms and comedy? Does it make sense to be looking for someone in LA, right? Or are they shooting in Atlanta? Does that make more sense for you? So much production is moving to the UK. Does it make sense to expand there? Does your Canadian agent have connections there? Maybe this is a conversation to have with them. If I were you, I would make an appointment with your agent and say, hey, I've been thinking about this. I also would love to be working on this stuff. I've been thinking it might be beneficial to add someone else to the team. What do you think? And they go, oh, you know what? I do have a client who's also repped in Atlanta, or I do have a client who's repped in the UK. Let me introduce you. But it might be a good to start there. Start with really what you want, but then I would bring your current agent into the conversation and then start to expand from there.
Yeah, and I wouldn't hide this. I wouldn't try to do it on the sly and gee, I hope they never figure it out.
No.
They're on your team and they should know what your goals are. They should know what you're trying to accomplish, and they should be helping pull in that direction rather than you worried that they might be upset and pulling in the other direction. All right. So
1,000%.
put your comments. What was that?
Oh, I said 1,000%. I agree.
Yeah.
Totally.
Put your questions in the comments below. We got Jodie for another 29 minutes. So hurry, don't wait. And if you want to get more of this, so much of this that you're going to be so happy, go to voheroes.com/thinktank and please consider joining Jodie's community. It's great. If you do, via that link, you will get a private 30-minute coaching session with me on anything you want to talk about. VO, acting,
love it,
audiobooks, Jodie's booth, whatever. Jamel sent this in, and here's the question. I am confused about this term, your brand. Seems like jargon designed to sell branding horses. What say you, Jodie Bentley?
Oh, Jamel, I love it. Yes. So branding, I've been talking about branding since 2008. It is not jargon to me. It is theory based on business fundamentals that work. I think I went to NYU Tisch School of the Arts. When I graduated, I was like, I can play anything, right? And I tried to audition for everything. My senior year of college, I played a bald hunchback man. I grew out my armpit hair. I grew out my leg hair. I thought I was like an actor's actor. And then I got out and auditioned in the real world, and I was like, I can't play bald hunchback man. I can't play 90-year-old women. I don't understand. Because the school didn't prep me to be in the business, right? So Jamel, this is just I'll tell you a short story. So I floundered for 8 years after I graduated NYU. I was trying to do everything, trying to be everything. And I was taking every non-paying job I could, thinking that was keeping me busy to call myself an actor. And after 8 years of that, I got really freaking burnt out. And I was like, I'm missing something. And I started reading business books. I was like, I knew it was business that I was missing. And I started reading a lot of books on branding, a lot of books on marketing, a lot of books on sales, networking, everything. And in 2008, I didn't know at the time, but I started building my branding system for actors that has obviously morphed and evolved over the years, which is a huge part of the Actors Think Tank. And I really got clear on my brand and who I was. And that was when my career started taking off in New York, because I got specific on the stories I wanted to tell and where I fit. So no, it is not just jargon. It is not just jargon to sell a course. It's not anything. You can call it brand, you can call it essence, you can call it niche, we can call it whatever the heck you want to call it. But really what it means is getting really freaking clear on who you are, getting really clear on the stories that you tell and where you fit in this industry. So that way, when the industry looks at you and goes to your website and looks at your reel and looks at your headshots, they go, Jamel, I know who they are. I get it. I get it. And that's your job. Your job is to bring that clarity into the industry. That's what I mean by branding. And then when you have that clarity, we have to make sure that that clarity is in all your marketing tools. So again, they get it. There's brand alignment. There's consistency in how you are showing up and how you are presenting yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing we get to do. But I don't think a lot of actors understand that, because we don't understand business. I didn't understand business until I educated myself. And that's why I've built this membership and teach what I teach. And also, like, I just told you, I'm teaching at UTLA. I'm helping 21-year-old kids define themselves and who are they and where they fit in the industry. Right. And that's a big question. It's actually a very big question. And I approach it from a very holistic way. But you'll find a lot of people in the industry will go, oh, Jamel, you're the villain. Let's brand you as the villain. Let's be the villain. And they're going to put something on you. And my branding process is from the inside out, not the outside in. And really figuring out how to package you from that. So it is not just jargon, it is theory, and it's theory that works. And it's why my course has worked in 17 different countries, because business fundamentals are business fundamentals and they work. The strategy in those areas might shift and change. And I've learned a lot about strategy in multiple countries. I've got multiple clients in Paris now, as I said, Czech Republic, Germany, all over. I've learned the different strategies, UK, but those business fundamentals have been the same across the board.
Very cool. I want to, when I give this next question to you, I think I understand what the question is. Sam says, how essential is it to be able to edit your own work? I think it's, do I need to know how to edit and do a self-tape at home? Or should I go to one of these studios somewhere? Should I go to the Union Hall where they let you set up, half an hour? How essential is it to be, I have an opinion on this, but I'd love to know what you have to say.
I think it's super essential. I want to have ownership over my career in all places, right? And that is what I'm teaching in the Actors Think Tank, is having ownership over all the aspects of your career. And I do think being able to edit a self-tape yourself is taking ownership of that. And I get that a lot of people are afraid of tech and afraid of, all the stuff. Like, I get it. And you just have to remember that everything is learnable. Everything is learnable. And I think you can easily figure out how to edit a self-tape. It's not doing any crazy editing. It's not like you're splicing in and cutting in different takes. You're giving them one take, right? So I do think that it is essential to do that. Number one, you're going to save a hell of a lot of money, paying a studio to do that. You get to do all this stuff on your own time. And I think you can really, look, the goal would be to get 8-9 auditions a week, right? I want to be able to do that at home and do that quickly and learn how to do that. So Sam, I would really invite you to find your way in and figure that out. And if you need someone to sit down with you and show you, great, figure that out. Get your hand held to do it. But I do believe that it is essential to do that for sure. It's just going to make your whole career easier.
It's also not that hard.
It's
I think that people look at it as like, oh, it's like, I know how to use Word, but if you know how to use Word, if you know how to use Google Docs, or if you've got the basics for, knowing how to bold something in your emails, that's harder than video editing. I swear to God, our kind of video editing. You're not doing action sequences and chase scenes and, murder scenes and all. You're not doing walk and talks. It's like when I talk to people about voiceover, we're recording single track mono undone video or audio that's really simple. So I think people sometimes get a little ahead of themselves. Jacko Pai is back from Vegas.
Jacko!
Yeah, in Vegas. Want to get started in VO, but need training. What do you look for as far as beginner training, in person, online? How do you know who is reputable? Please help. Gosh, I wonder. But here's the thing. This question is a good question for anybody that you're going to take courses with, because one of the things that I noticed on Jodie's page that you'll get to is I've taken hundreds of courses. Why should I take yours? I've joined a number of communities. What makes yours different? And it's that judgment about, am I going to waste my money? I've got limited resources. How do I judge? So if I could just alter this a little bit, I feel like this is what I do with voiceover. This is what Jodie does with building your acting business, your on-camera and voiceover acting business. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, my initial thought to Jacko's question was study with you, David. If you want voiceover training, David is the premier voiceover training guy. So I would start there. But yeah, I hear you, David. It's like, I have so many clients who are like, oh my God, I bought all the courses and I never finished them and I've done all this stuff and and I get it, right? There's a lot of FOMO in the business. There's a lot of who do I trust? Kind of what you said, who's reputable, Jacko. I don't even know if that's your name, but it's just fun to say Jacko.
Yeah.
Who do we trust? But that's why I think it's really important, first of all, I use this word a lot. Like we have to be really discerning, right? Of really going, well, what do I need now? What's going to help me now? Because there could be 5 courses that you want to take. But then if you take a step back and you go, okay, what's most important now? Maybe you already have a career going that is, maybe not where you want it to be. Maybe you have an acting career going and it could be, plateauing. And so now you're like, oh, maybe I should go to voiceover. You know what I mean? So maybe you're not putting the effort here, which would help build that. But now you're saying, well, let me start something new because this was too hard. Right. So that's what I mean by like being really discerning about what is it you want to do and why. Sometimes I have clients who go, well, I got to go study at UCB, but they don't want to do commercials and they really don't do comedy. And I'm like, well, why do you want to do that? And they're like, well, because someone told me it was good on a resume. And I was like, well, but do you want to be doing comedy? And do you want to be doing commercial work? And do you want to do improv? They're like, no. Like, well, then why the hell are you going to go study at UCB if that's not part of your goals or what you want? Like we got to be really discerning about what it is that you want to do. So I think I always say this to all my clients, before you buy anything, just go, you got to know that coach, like that coach, and go, do I feel like this person is really going to help me? Do I like what they say? Do I want to work with them? If the answer is yes, then great. If the answer is, well, my friend said they were good, so I guess I should. That's not a good answer. It's not a good enough answer.
My obligatory Mr. Channel or Ms. Channel is back saying if they haven't worked in the past 20 years or even the last 5, then they are not up to date with what current trends are, because he also said, or she also said, I'm a voice actor and my rule of thumb is to check the coach or instructor's IMDb. Well, if you check Jodie's, you'll see her in a police uniform that's pretty sexy. Are they working now? That's a good sign. What was that? 911?
Yeah, 911
Lone Star? Lone Star, yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah. Also, I think one thing to be very aware of is that the bucket list item is not should I or shouldn't I, and then, okay, I will buy the course. The bucket list item is take the course. You just bought it. If you're going to buy into any membership, then be as involved as you possibly can be. Yeah. You're putting your hard-earned resources to work here. It's not about just purchasing it. It's about engaging with it. I would bet that your most successful clients, Jodie, are the ones that actually log into your site, attend the monthly support session. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just thinking, I'm just spitballing here. As opposed to, they sent you an amount of money and then like sat back and like, all right, I'm waiting for the metamorphosis. And the danger there is that that person may end up saying, yeah, I took David's course, but it didn't really work for me. The answer is you didn't take my course. You bought it. but you didn't
Mm,
take it. So
mm.
I'm urging you, if you're watching this, no matter what you decide to do, if you decide to join Jodie's community, then engage, because this is awesome stuff and it's worth a lot more. I'll say it again. It's worth a lot more than what Jodie is charging. So,
I do want to say, I just, from what you said, I just reminded me of this. I just wanted to share this because it happened yesterday. Like, there are other memberships out there for actors. There are other acting business coaches. I get it. And like what you said, my obligatory channel, I agree with 100%, right? Why would you study with someone who was not in it now? Right. I think it's really important, if you're wanting to be an actor and learn things, to study with someone who is actually working now and who's in the industry now. I do think that's important because the trends have shifted so much. And I also know that sometimes people go, oh, a membership. I'm not going to get attention. I'm not going to get her eyeballs on stuff. I'm not going to get coached on stuff. And I just literally got this card in the mail yesterday from a woman in my membership who shows up. She shows up to every Q&A. She posts her questions in the community. I always answer every question in the community. She shows up to the monthly trainings that we have. She shows up to the monthly goal planning sessions that we have. She shows up to the work sessions that we have and does the work. And she just wrote me this beautiful thing. The wealth of information you share, your own experience, as well as your research, is astounding. Your willingness to not only share your gifts and talents, along with your enthusiasm to have each of us pave out our own path in this industry, makes me feel seen, heard, and hopeful. And it goes on and on. But I just wanted to share that because I think sometimes we think, oh, it's a membership, I will never get attention. No, if you show up, I'm going to show up with you. I'm meeting you there, and you're going to get coached, and your career will change. I promise you that. The
yeah.
people who join my membership and who do the work, they're not the same 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later. It's impossible to stay the same.
Yeah, and don't forget the value of peer support, mutual
Yeah, for
support,
sure.
peer contributions. You may find somebody doing something that you can steal like a fiend and put to use for
I
your
love it.
work, right? I mean,
Mhm.
what's the thing? Good artists borrow, great artists steal. I don't know what the actual phrase is,
I
but
forget.
it's like everybody, they see turns and they go, "Oh, that's good."
Mhm.
So Delia says, is it true what I read that casting directors won't watch more than 4 seconds of my self tapes?
I know that whole article came out. And look, I think what we get to remember is making generalizations is never a good idea. And that every casting director is going to run their office and run their business differently. And we don't know how they all run their businesses. They don't know how we all run our businesses. That person, I forgot who it was now in that article, obviously made this statement, which caused us all to go up in arms. Now, look, who knows? Who knows if they're watching it all? We don't. So all I know is when I'm doing a self tape, they called me in. So there was something about me that made them want to watch me, that made them want to see me. So out of 1,500 submissions and the 25, 30 people they called in for this guest star, they wanted to see what Jodie Bentley did. They wanted to see what David H. Lawrence the 17th did. So I am always going to assume the best, that they're going to watch my tape. But if they watch 30 seconds of it and they go, nah, you know what? The producer said they wanted someone blonde. I'm not even going to bother watching this because why are they going to waste their time?
Yep.
So I can see that point of view of it, right? That maybe they put out that thing and then they decided to go a different way. It kind of is what it is. But I'm not going to waste my time and my energy worrying how much of my tape they're watching. I'm going to trust that I'm doing good work and they're going to watch it. I got pinned for a TV show in December. I got pinned for a TV show in January. February, I had 0 auditions, you guys, just from the trends of this industry right now and what's occurring in it. And that's okay. I'm not panicking. I'm not freaking out. Auditions are coming back up. I just booked a SAG industrial and I just booked an audiobook. Great, right? We got to understand that this business is going to ebb and flow, and we get to focus on what we can control, not what we can't control. And I can't control how long that casting director is watching my tape. So I'm not going to give it any thought.
Yeah. I'm sorry, could you repeat the second thing that you just booked? What was that again?
I booked a SAG industrial and an audiobook.
An audiobook. That's what
Yes.
I heard.
Yes.
Here's the thing. We audition restaurants every time we go out to a restaurant. Think about how much time you spend on the ones you don't go to. And you likely are very familiar with what they have to offer. It's like, do I want to go there? Do I want to, it doesn't. But then you land on the one that you like. Now, I'm not saying that a casting director or the actual decision maker, like a director or a producer or a writer that is in charge of deciding which actor gets the job, is treating that decision the way we might treat, a random Tuesday night, burger. But
It's funny.
we also think about very important events and dinner decisions. And I couldn't care less that if somebody starts my audition tape and goes, "Oh, he's bald. I knew he was bald. Why didn't I remember he was bald? We need somebody with hair." So it's going to happen. And I think you also interned at UDK. Did you intern at UDK?
No.
No. All right. So I interned at UDK, biggest casting office in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Multiple agents, dozens of assistants and associates. I would watch them back in the early 2000s not spend more than 4 seconds on a tape that didn't matter. It just wasn't working for them, and they knew it right from that's their job. And if this is new to you or this is an explosive thing to you, you need to reset. You need to really reassess what your thoughts are about how this business works. And Jodie can help you do that. That's what I was trying to say.
I love it. Well, and David, I just before you get to that, like what you were saying about like back in the day in the room, it's like I've been auditions in the room where I come in and I read it once and they went thanks, and you go okay, and you leave and you're like like I wasted my time. I had to drive to Santa Monica to come down here. Do you know what I mean? But then you go in the room. No, I didn't waste my time
because then there are some where they do that. And guess what? You got a call back. They knew it right off the bat.
Right.
Boom. Thank you very much. Send to the next person. I got shit to do. Right? Yeah.
Sometimes they'll watch 10 seconds and go, yeah, she's perfect. Let's pass her on to producers. Like, you don't know. You don't. Perfect.
So anyway. Thank you, Jodie. Martha says, akin to what we had talked about earlier, I'm 83. I feel so left out by all the tech and online stuff that's needed to know. Tell me I stand any chance at all.
Martha, just by nature of asking that damn question, of course you stand a chance because you want it. You want it and you're showing up for yourself. I have clients in their 70s and 80s. I have a lot of clients in their 70s and 80s. And I think age is irrelevant. There's ages all over film and television for all different kinds of people. I get that the tech can feel hard. I have my client, well, actually, Gloria's in her late 70s. She's figured out a lot of tech. She's learned it. And I have other clients, even like their 60s, 70s. And my one client in his early 80s, he has an assistant. He has someone that he can pay to help him with tech shit. So what? Like, that's the thing. We don't have to be great at everything. I have clients go, oh, I have to design my website and I have to do this and I have to do that. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to do? What makes sense for you to do? What don't you want to learn? And what can you delegate? Right? You get to make the business decisions, right? But even this morning in my mastermind groups that I run, I was giving 2 clients notes on their websites because they're having someone else. One of them is having her husband design it. How lovely. The other one is paying for someone to design it, right? But you still need to give notes and say what you want and how you want your website presented. But there's always a way to delegate things. So anytime there's an excuse that comes up, oh, it's tech. Oh, I don't have connections. Oh, I don't have this. Okay, well, let's look at that as simply an excuse. And now what can you do to make that not an excuse? So if tech is the excuse from stopping you from doing this acting career, how can we make that not an excuse anymore?
And she lets that question linger in the air. Beautiful. Go to voheroes.com/thinktank. There's a clickable link in the description of this event. And understand that these are the questions that you can ask and have answered. And Jodie is the right person for you if this is what you need. Hakan, wait a minute, I clicked the wrong one. Hakan said, isn't that nepotism another big factor other than just pure talent in every industry? And let me just really quickly let's clarify who my obligatory channels are. She, her. I come from a very long line of obligatory. It's ancient, noble, waspy line from the sarcasm is my mother tongue lineage. All right. So nepotism.
Love it.
What are your thoughts on nepotism? Is the director's sister the one getting that guest star role?
She might, but that's out of my control, you guys. Again, I'm going to focus on what I can control, because actors who I know and my clients who come to me who are focusing on what they can't control, those are the ones who get bitter, jaded, burnt out, leave the industry, are always in resistance, constantly complaining and blaming outside sources. My clients who focus on what they can control are the ones who land agents, who get jobs, who create opportunities, who network with people, who build relationships. So does nepotism exist? Sure. Of course it does. It probably exists in multiple industries, right? But I don't want to sit here again worrying about that, being in resistance to that, putting energy into that, because I can't control that. What I can control is defining my product, packaging that product so people can get it, showing up and doing good work, building relationships, and landing a great team. I can control all those things. All
Yeah.
those things I can control.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a great distinction. Because we can drive ourselves absolutely crazy and raising our fist
Crazy.
to the heavens about how unfair this industry is. And usually it's unfair because we don't have the ability to dictate the result,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So, Nick Omana says, thank you for your time and sharing great
Oh,
insights today, both of you. Love
you're
that.
welcome.
Let me just really quickly see here if there's any other questions that were sent in that we could, because we lose Jodie in less than 4 minutes here. So,
I
um,
disappear.
yeah. I
I poof.
read on your website, Wilson says, I read on your website that you have a badass goal setting system. Details? Question mark.
Yes.
If
My
you could make
badass
it a
goal
2-minute
setting.
explanation so I can ask you for a 2-minute wrap up, that
Oh,
would be
geez.
great.
Wilson, yes, my badass goal setting system is part of the Actors Think Tank. Because I think a lot of times actors sometimes set these goals that are they're not attainable or achievable, or they write a goal on a piece of paper and go, I want to be a series reg, and it sits on their desk and then they never look at it again or never take action on it. So my badass goal setting system is a whole breakdown of really how to look at goals from goals, milestones, projects, and tasks. And I really help you break that down, make it actionable, and give you systems to follow on a daily, monthly, weekly basis to really make sure that you are hitting your goals. So that's it in a nutshell. It's just a whole system I've created from my Virgo brain, but that really does speak to many other people's modalities of thinking or how they approach goals, to really stay on track with goals and make sure that you are getting results and not focusing on the busy work like we kind of
Yeah.
talked about at the beginning.
Jodie mentioned she's a Virgo. She has the best birthday ever.
Yes, I do.
So all right, cool. I really appreciate you spending your time with us today, Jodie. I know you're in the
Yeah.
middle of a this is like her yearly one of her yearly matriculations of the think tank. She gathers people together and it just makes the whole community stronger.
Yeah.
Again, I want to remind you that if you decide to join her community, you can get started for as little as $47, but you have to get there by tomorrow night. As we're recording this, it's on Monday, the 24th of March. You have to get there by tomorrow night by 9 p.m. Pacific. Don't send email messages going, but I'm living on the East Coast. But if you do join, you got 30 minutes of my time as well. So if you join
Incredible.
her community, I will give you a private coaching session, completely, no charge. And we can talk about anything else you want to talk about in terms of your career, your on-camera career, your voiceover career. Jodie and I are both kind of multi-hyphenates in that we work in both areas. Jodie may have mentioned that she just booked an audiobook. I don't know. But she is one of those people that has decided that both her own personal pursuit of acting doesn't end with the stage, doesn't end with TV film, doesn't end with studio. It's a combination. It's the expression of her art in whatever ways her production partners want to have her express that. And you can
Sure.
do the same thing. The Actors
Yes.
Think Tank is just great. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying yes. Oh, we have my obligatory channels, Virgo 99.
99. That's awesome.
I love it. Yes. Now I've gotten totally sidetracked. First of all, David, thank you for having me. Thank you for saying all of that. Um, I do. I'm really proud of the work that I've built in the Actors Think Tank, and I'm really proud of the successes that my clients get from it. Because I think when you do the work, it works. You just got to show up and do the work. And and I do want to say that it has been such a crazy time in our industry, right? We had the pandemics, we had the strikes, we had the aftermath of the strikes where we thought, the studios needed time to catch up. And now here we are in 2025 and, we were told to survive until 2025 and we're still kind of just surviving. Do you know what I mean? But I feel that there's a lot of stuff happening in our industry. We know 51 films just got greenlit to shoot in Los Angeles, right? With the new tax credits that we have here. Like things are happening, things are moving. My husband works for Disney. A pilot just started filming this week that, I only have 2 more pilots coming down the pike. I know other studios are having stuff. So like now's the time. Things are happening. But like we said, there's things happening, but there's just less things happening. So what does that mean? It just means you need to have your shit together. It just means you need to be able to stand out from the pack. And I firmly believe that holistic business skills are just non-negotiable for an acting career. And so if you've found yourself blaming the industry, blaming your agent, blaming your age, blaming where you live, blaming all that stuff, you can either stay there and be in resistance, which just creates more resistance, or you can actually focus on what you can control and start taking those steps to get the career that you want, because it is still possible. You just might not be seeing the possibility, but I see it and I know that it's possible and I can support you in getting there.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just so good. Thank you, Jodie. I appreciate it. voheroes.com/thinktank. voheroes.com/thinktank. Jodie only said an expletive 4 times during this session.
I'm sorry. I can't help myself.
Wasn't even trying, because there have been times. All right. I appreciate you being with us. I know you got to get on to the rest of your day, and you that are watching have to get on to the rest of your day. Feel free, if you're watching this on the replay, to drop comments or questions. Make sure that you tag both Jodie and me, and we'll take care of it for you. Thank you for showing up, and we will talk to you soon. Bye, Jodie.
Awesome. Bye.